Wonderful. Hey, hello. How are you? I'm Enrique Palafox. I'm in Mexico City. I'm here with Dacre Stoker. Dacre, how are you today?
I'm well, Enrique. Nice to reconnect. As always, every week I'm sitting here in hot and sweaty South Carolina. Week 10, yes, absolutely. 10 weeks. And
10 weeks.
The action continues to slowly move along. It's like kind of we're gathering momentum. We're learning more about the characters other than Jonathan Harker and Count Dracula. We had last week a little bit of interaction between letters Lucy and Mina, but now we develop an understanding of a few more of the characters. Obviously, Dr. Seward and a little bit of Renfield, Arthur, and Quincy. So yeah, we're getting into the meat of things now.
Wonderful. Let me translate that to the Spanish audience. Bienvenidos, es nuestra semana 10. Estamos ya en un punto de la narrativa que ya empieza otra vez a agarrar velocidad. Estamos conociendo a los personajes que van a ser sumamente importantes. Ya supimos algo de Renfield, ya supimos algo de Dr. Seward, ¿no? El intercambio de Mina y de Lucy. Y bueno, pues aquí es donde vamos a arrancar. Okay, Dacre, let's start with week number 10.
Okay. So here's the insight that I normally give you guys, and that's my understanding of Bram Stoker as a person, as a brother to Thornley Stoker, the doctor, and why he wrote things the way he did. And that's to me some of the coolest things. I love what he wrote. I love the story, but why he wrote them the way he did is really important. And the fact that his older brother, Sir William Thornley Stoker, was a famous doctor, but he was not just a physical doctor. He was also a doctor dealing with mental patients in hospitals, 2 different hospitals in Dublin, Ireland. And that brings to light some of the parts of the writing in these chapters today.
Wonderful. Tenemos aquí otra vez la manera en que Bram Stoker se va relacionando, porque como dice Dacre, es bien importante el relato y eso, bueno, nos fascina, pero también es muy importante entender de dónde salen todas las ideas de Bram para llevarlas a cabo en la escritura. En este caso, bueno, pues la inspiración de su hermano mayor, que era doctor y que además no nada más era un doctor de cuerpo, sino también de cuestiones mentales, pues es una clara influencia para el Dr. Seward que vamos a estar platicando de él. Okay.
There's one other little family connection too before we start. Bram's mother, who I've said before, I think Bram modeled the new woman, the modern woman, Mina, after his mother partly, as well as his sister Matilda. But one of the things that I think was very important in the Stoker household was that his mother delivered a paper to the Society of Statistical Inquiry about how do you judge a mental patient to be criminally insane. This was something of great interest back in the late 1800s. They had a lot of people who were, mentally challenged, a lot of people who were insane. And even today, it's difficult to establish if somebody is criminally insane. But think of back in the 1800s, and this is something that she wrote a whole paper on. And I believe that Bram developed some of that interest himself. And I know for a fact that he visited mental hospitals as well as prisons and talked to people who were insane to find out what they were like. And I'm sure that's how he wrote part of this chapter with Renfield, because of his interest in these types of things. It's a very interesting insight into the writer and how he came to write these portions about Renfield, his brother, his mother, and his own interest.
Tenemos otra referencia muy importante, que es una referencia familiar de nueva cuenta, donde vemos a Bram retomando cosas de sus inspiraciones de chico. Tenemos a la madre, que ya habíamos platicado de ella, la madre de Bram, que era una nueva mujer, una mujer muy echada para adelante, ¿no? Que escribió acerca de cuestiones de un perfil psicológico, mental. Acuérdense que en ese entonces había mucha obsesión por tratar de definir a través de los rasgos, ¿no? Lo que tendría que ser un criminal o un enfermo mental. Entonces, mucho de estos reflexiones, pues se ven metidas en la obra. Por el otro lado, nos cuenta Dacre que Bram visitó hospitales y cárceles, ¿no? Pues para tener de primera mano, ¿no? Estos encuentros y poder escribir algo más para este capítulo en lo particular. Okay.
So the first entry I just want to read to you, and Enrique, you can translate, was the end of chapter 5, Dr. Seward's diary kept in the phonograph. Now, we all know that Dr. Seward wasn't writing this down. He was doing a very modern thing, high technology at the time, which Bram loved. He was dictating into a phonograph. It get kept on a wax cylinder. And then later on in the book, Mina learned how to take the wax cylinder, listen to it, and then type it on a typewriter, which, folks, was very high tech at the time. But here's what he wrote about Renfield. He's talking about Renfield. He is so quaint that I am determined to understand him as well as I can. Today, I seem to get nearer than ever before to the heart of his mystery.
Aquí hay algo muy interesante porque estamos viendo el diario ya del doctor Seward, ¿no? Que acuérdense que estamos en un doctor que está en lo más alto de la tecnología, ¿no? Entonces, él no escribe su diario, sino que lo dicta y lo dicta al fonógrafo, este fonógrafo que era el que captaba el sonido y que después Mina tenía que transcribir, ¿no? Y después lo hace en la novela, pero aquí vemos precisamente lo que estábamos hablando de las referencias de los personajes y de cómo la fisionomía ayuda. Aquí vemos al doctor Seward haciendo una descripción muy clara, ¿no? De Renfield. Entonces, y cómo se empieza a él a obsesionar, ¿no? Porque precisamente tiene como muchos perfiles que machan una descripción que le resulta muy interesante. Entonces, ahí viene la obsesión del doctor Seward y además grabada en este high-tech, bueno, que en alta tecnología. I mean, this high-tech is very impressive in the novel because if they were people of high class, high-end people, so they can access to the time writer machine, and they can access to the phonograph, they can access to the telegraph very easily as no?
Absolutely. And Bram Stoker himself ended up writing his notes on a typewriter. So he loved this technology personally as well.
Definitely. Did you have any notice that Bram ever used the phonograph to record something?
No, we don't know that. And I think if there was anybody in the family, it would have been his brother, Sir William Thornley Stoker, who was very, very wealthy himself.
Yeah.
So here's one other piece that's interesting to mention about this Seward's vision of the mental patient Renfield. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of interest and concern back in those days, middle 1800s, late 1800s, mm-hmm. that people who had mental problems were connected to either aliens from another planet or the devil. It was another world. They were otherworldly.
Yeah.
And so listen to this quote from the novel. I seemed to wish to keep him to the point of his madness, a thing which I would avoid with the patients as I would the mouth of hell. So this equating the madness to hell, and this is Seward and Renfield. You're exactly right. This is putting these together. There's a lovely TV series I love called The Alienist, which is all about the psychologists back in the Victorian era, and they are looked at as being people connecting with these alien people, the mental patients. So this was a big, big issue that Bram is introduced into this novel, something that people were very concerned about at the time.
And there you have another big issue relating the evil with the novel. It's very close relations, not only with the Dracula, but then again with the mental patients. No, they are closely related.
Yes, it is. It's a very gray area between the natural and the supernatural, you know, evil, good and evil, and the mental side of people. Maybe they've gone evil. Maybe the devil has taken control of them. The supernatural world has changed their mind and they don't function normally anymore.
Okay. Lo que estamos platicando ahorita es, bueno, pues todas estas relaciones que tenía que haber en la época, ¿no? De cómo se visualizaban los problemas, ¿no? Entonces, por ejemplo, los problemas mentales, nos cuenta Dacre, están muy relacionados ya sea con los aliens, ¿no? Porque evidentemente en el cambio de siglo, pues la tecnología, eso era lo que daba, ¿no? Entonces, lejos de investigar más, bueno, pues era muy fácil echarse los aliens, o por el otro lado, con el maligno, ¿no? Con el diablo. Entonces, la enfermedad mental otra vez relacionada con el diablo, ¿no? Lo cual hace un refuerzo muy importante a todas las connotaciones maléficas y malignas que tiene la novela definitivamente. Okay.
So the next point to bring up, again, it's all about Renfield still, but this is about Bram's writing process. I'm going to mention something because he says this sentence, and then would you translate? Okay.
Yeah.
What I think of at this point is when the self is the fixed point.
Aquí Seward está ya hablando particularmente de Renfield y lo que dice es que lo que él cree en ese momento es que el centro es el punto de partida. ¿Ok?
The centripetal force is balanced with the centrifugal force.
En donde hay una balance entre una fuerza centrípeta que expulsa y una fuerza centrípeta que jala. ¿Ok?
Now, to explain why Bram wrote this, it's so lucky that he wrote this same thing in his lost journal, which was published 8 years before he used it in Dracula. Go ahead.
Son datos que además hay una referencia muy clara en el diario de Bram Stoker de esta referencia, ¿no? Y que lo publicó 8 años antes. Okay.
And as you know, I published this lost journal with Dr. Elizabeth Miller. And when we found this, we said, oh, this made its way into Dracula. And so why did it make its way into Dracula? So say that, and then I'm going to read what's in the journal about it.
Esta parte es fundamental porque justo el libro del diario de Bram Stoker lo publicó Dacre junto con la doctora Elizabeth Miller y ahí justo se encontraron en ese diario esta referencia que ahorita nos va a narrar. ¿Ok?
So in the journal, this is what he says. Centrifugal and centripetal. There are in nature two forces which affect moving bodies. One, centripetal force, which moves things towards a central point to come inwards, and the other, centrifugal, which moves things away from the center. So obviously he thought about this, you know. So Bram Stoker thought about the idea of centrifugal force and centripetal force 8 years before he wrote Dracula. And he decided to put it into the novel in some way, and it seemed to make sense to apply this to the character and the personality of Renfield. Either is he repelling people or bringing things in? What is his characteristics like? So it's a heavily philosophical situation, but it's also dealing with the psychology of somebody.
It's kind of complicated to understand, but now that you explain it that way, it makes all the sense because Renfield is these forces that draws attention to it, but then he pushes it away, and it's like the wave, it's like the sea.
Right, and if you think about Dracula, okay, he's one of the minions of Dracula, and Dracula pulls people in, right? And that's his strength of pulling people in. But if he doesn't like you, if there needs to be something to protect himself, it's pushing away.
That's so clear.
Somehow, to make Bram Stoker understand all this in the terms that he wanted to understand it, he uses these two very complicated words. But it's so incredible that he thought about it 8 years beforehand, put it in his journal, and then here it comes, and boom, it's in chapter 5.
Okay, I will translate this because this is very clear right now. Okay, esta parte es importante porque Bram se adelantó a su tiempo y evidentemente estudió las fuerzas centrípetas y centrífugas, lo cual lo pone en su diario, ¿no? Y lo establece muy bien como parte de la personalidad de Renfield, porque Renfield es esta persona que puede acercar, ¿no? En esos momentos que uno siente lástima por él, pero por el otro lado también avienta para afuera, ¿no? Entonces se vuelve una fuerza de la naturaleza al mismo tiempo que lo hace el conde Drácula, porque sabemos que Drácula lo que hace es atraer a sus víctimas hasta en el momento que le sirven y en el momento que no, pues se deshace de ellas. Entonces aquí es donde viene muy clara la explicación de las fuerzas y por qué hace tanto sentido hablar de ellas con Renfield. Okay.
And I'm sure in a interesting way, you know, Bram Stoker was a head of the Philosophical Society of Trinity College. Yeah. These are the types of things that a person of Bram's mind, of his brain, of his outlook on life, that's what they think of. But what's really cool is he could apply it to this story so many years later. So let's move on now. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me give this one. Estamos viendo la mente brillante de Bram, que además, bueno, pues era cabeza de la sociedad filosófica, y bueno, pues precisamente el que se haya adelantado tanto tiempo analizando estas partes y cómo implementarlas dentro de un personaje, pues habla mucho de eso. Okay, let's go forward.
So we move forward on to communication between Quincy Morris and Arthur Holmwood. Up until this point, we really don't know much about these guys. But now, after these series of letters back and forth, they have known each other for a long time. They have been on adventures in South America. They have been through all kinds of really, you know, kind of wild and crazy things. But they also have gone to the Korea Club together in London. So both, you know, sitting on the shores of Lake Titicaca to drinking with high society people in London. So they've got some good chemistry together going way back. And it's really important that Bram establishes that now as these characters are about to obviously deal with something supernatural.
Aquí vemos ya la relación de estos personajes que se van introduciendo. Vemos a Arthur Holmwood y al Dr. Seward y a Quincy, que son amigos de mucho tiempo, ¿no? Vemos cómo ya se empiezan a intercambiar cartas y telegramas, ¿no? Lo cual nos da un contexto de que estas personas son amigos de mucho tiempo, son amigos que han viajado juntos, han estado juntos en el lago Titicaca, como mencionan por ahí, o también fueron a los bares de Corea y ese tipo de cosas. O sea, tienen una relación atrás. Ya aquí nos mete Bram de lleno y nos cuenta que estos cuates, bueno, pues tienen una relación atrás muy sólida. Okay.
I mean, it's possible they were in something like the French Foreign Legion, or they were on hunting expeditions or safari, but major adventures in their life.
Yeah, because they are wealthy, so they have these possibilities to travel and do stuff together.
So now we're into chapter 6, and we begin to see emotionally the whole story turns to Whitby. And having been to Whitby now myself 8 times, I can totally understand why Bram Stoker fell in love with the place. He only went there one time that we know of. In the beginning of his writing of Dracula in 1890, he went for a 2-week holiday, the first week by himself, and then his wife and son came to visit with him to join him. There are very good records of when he was there and what he did while he was there. And we know that he described the town himself, but through Mina's voice, through Mina's letters, through Mina's journal. And as you read it, folks, all I can say is it is exactly as Bram described it. So go and translate that, and then I'll get into some of these more interesting points of what he said.
It's like a picture, you're quite right. Aquí tenemos una parte muy interesante. Entramos al capítulo 6, donde al principio de la escritura de Drácula, Bram estuvo 2 semanas de vacaciones en el pueblo de Whitby, este pueblo porteño, ¿no? En las afueras de Inglaterra, ¿no? Y la primera semana estuvo solo haciendo estos análisis, ¿no? Y estos estudios, él estuvo en la biblioteca. La segunda semana ya fue acompañado por su esposa e hijos, ¿no? Y entonces lo que está contando Dacre es que tras él haber estado 8 veces en el pueblo de Whitby, él puede constatar que lo que Bram describe es a la perfección, es de un nivel de detalle impresionante.
So in the very beginning, he mentions how beautiful the vision is of the Esk River, the town. And remember, Bram was a painter. He was a founding member of the Dublin Painting and Sketching Club. So he looks at things with the eye of a painter, as you said, like a picture. And he referenced, he said, the red roofs seem piled up over one another like the pictures we see of Nuremberg. Now that strikes me as interesting because he wrote one other story that took place in Nuremberg. And it's one of my favorite short stories that I recommend you viewers look at. And it's called The Squaw. And it's very strange. And it sounds an awful lot like Bram Stoker and his wife, Florence, on their honeymoon. I'm not sure if they went there. It's coincidental maybe, but it's a good story. And it's combining Whitby. It's comparing Whitby and Nuremberg. So it's definitely something to look at.
Which is the name of the short story again?
The Squaw.
The Squad, I haven't read that. Está contando Dacre, hay otra una historia muy corta que se llama The Squad, que precisamente sucede en Nuremberg, que hay un paralelismo con esto que está hablando Dacre de Whitby, ¿no? Porque precisamente en las notas también aparece Nuremberg, entonces al parecer se quedó con esas ganas de escribir más y fue por eso que se aventó esta otra pequeña historia que además Dacre nos recomienda. No la he leído yo, pero bueno, seguramente ya está en mi lista. Okay.
Now today, if you look at any photos of Whitby, or you go there, it's going to be dominated by the most impressive site of Whitby Abbey, which was built around 1100, I think, and later on sacked by the Danes. But Bram says this, right over the town is the ruin of Whitby Abbey, which was sacked by the Danes, and which is the scene of part of the famous poem Marmion. It's by Sir Walter Scott, and it's talking about a nun who was built into the wall of the abbey as punishment for being promiscuous. She had an attraction to a male, which nuns were not supposed to. But what he's doing is using the real history of Whitby Abbey and this poem that everyone was familiar with to tie it all together to make it seem real.
Wow. Aquí hay un dato bien interesante que nos está contando Dacre sobre un poema que se llama Marmion, que es sobre una monja adúltera que fue literal, se dice, bueno, enterrada, pero en las paredes, ¿no? Emparedada, literal. Entonces, es parte del folclore de la abadía de Whitby y la utiliza en la descripción que hace a través de la voz de Mina, ¿no? Que habla de cómo está la abadía que fue saqueada por los daneses, ¿no? Y hace una referencia al poema de Marmion porque precisamente lo que es bien interesante, otra vez, es que todo es muy real. Todo lo que escribe Bram le da un contexto de realismo y hace que todo, pues, termine de amarrar. ¿Ok?
Now, in real life, this abbey was founded by a female abbess, Hilda, who later was sainted. And the local lore is that you can see this woman in white in the window. And people speculate that that is the abbess Hilda, who is still looking out over her domain. Now, I'll tell you the truth. When you go there to this day, and at nightfall, when the cold sea air comes in and it hits the hot ground and you have this mist, you look up into the ruins of the abbey and you see this sort of white, mystical, ghost-like figures. And that's how we come up with Hilda. And again, Bram is using something that people believe to be real, and he's incorporating it into his story to make, again, the supernatural and the natural merged into one. So you believe the story is possibly real.
Muy interesante, thank you. Muy interesante lo que nos está contando Dacre, porque bueno, la historia real es que fue construida la abadía por una abadesa, lo cual es muy raro, ¿no? Esta abadesa es la abadesa Hilda, que después fue hecha una Santa Hilda. Entonces esta abadesa, bueno, se cuentan las leyendas del lugar que aparecen las noches, sobre todo en las ventanas, estas ventanas góticas hermosas, ¿no? Pero otra vez hay una referencia de la realidad, porque en realidad es parte del folclore de la abadía, porque nos cuenta Dacre que en la noche, cuando viene este aire del mar, ¿no? Hace que la bruma y que la neblina pues suba a la abadía y entonces genera estas figuras fantasmales de las cuales la gente habla muchísimo y que, bueno, Bram evidentemente incorpora en su relato cuando aparece el conde. Okay.
Later in the chapter, we find out that Mina loves to go and sit up on the high level of the town, which is where St. Mary's Church is, with the graveyard right next to Whitby Abbey. And you wonder, why do people go and sit in a graveyard? Is this not a scary and horrifying place? But it's the opposite. In the Victorian era, all over England, particularly in the towns and the cities, some of the most beautiful places was the graveyards, because the grass was kept, it wasn't muddy, you didn't have all the street dirty water, the sewage. This was like the best thing you have is like a park. And also you'd have the fresh air off of the ocean coming in and making it very clean air, because people down lower in the town of Whitby were burning their coal and their peat and was making all kinds of smoke and smog. So it was high up in the graveyard was the beautiful place. And again, this is the same place that Bram would go sit and write his notes. It's exactly the same place where Mina is cited as writing her journal when she's sitting up by the graveyard, the same place that Bram did.
Bram utiliza a Mina para hablar de todo esto que nos estaba contando Dacre, pero desde su propia experiencia, porque parecería raro que una persona se fuera a sentar a un cementerio lleno de tumbas y lleno de muertos, pero lo que nos dice es que en la época victoriana esos lugares eran unos lugares muy privilegiados, porque eran lugares muy bonitos, más allá de la quietud que había, bueno, pues estaban puestos de tal manera que, bueno, la gente podía disfrutar de ellos. Había otra concepción, evidentemente, una relación con la muerte. Entonces, nos cuenta que abajo en el pueblo, pues la gente quemaba carbón y estaba, bueno, pues trabajando y generaba estos humos horrorosos, pero en la parte de arriba, donde está la abadía, bueno, pues es un lugar hermoso. Entonces, ahí hay una banca y en esa banca es donde Bram se sentaba a escribir sus notas. Ese mismo lugar es el que utiliza Mina para contarnos esta nueva historia.
So this is the place where lots of people would mix and mingle. And if you're a visitor to the town, if you want to go meet people, this is where you'd go. And for the first week when Bram was there by himself, did this quite frequently in places. He would go and try to meet fishermen, Coast Guard men, to get the stories of what is going on in the area. This was adventure. And this is where he'd use these stories in his writing. So in the novel, in chapter 6, this is Mina. I thought he would be a good person to learn interesting things from. This is the fisherman, Swales. So I asked him if he would mind telling me something about the whale fishing in the old days. And this is exactly what Bram would do. He would go and talk to the fishermen. These guys, what's happening? Any, really exciting things. And he inserted these into the story. And he actually gets Mina doing the same thing. And one of the things he found was they had an old, again, more lore, but one about the bell out in the sea. Ding, ding. And it would ding ding anytime a ship was lost and you heard the bell, it was reminding you of the lives lost of that ship. And that still happens in Whitby to this day.
Wow. Otra vez tenemos buenas referencias del mismo Bram estando ahí. Recordemos que en este lugar donde se sienta Mina a describir absolutamente todo, nos cuenta Dacre que era un lugar muy público donde la gente iba a conocer personas. O sea, era la tradición ir a estos lugares a conocer personas, intercambiar ideas. Entonces, precisamente lo mismo que describe Mina en su relato, ¿no? Que va y conoce al doctor, al señor Swales, que es este marino, ¿no? De la misma manera, Bram había estado en ese mismo lugar conociendo gente, preguntando historias de viejas cacerías, de barcos y demás, y bueno, pues hace mucho la referencia de la campana en las boyas, ¿no? Cuando venían las tormentas, se soltaban las boyas para recordar, ¿no? Y darle un norte a estos barcos que estaban perdidos. Entonces dice que al día de hoy se sigue escuchando esas campanas en las boyas, sobre todo en las noches de tormenta. Okay.
Now, we don't think he really met the seaman Swales, but we know where he got the name, because there is a gravestone in there with Anne Swales written on it and lots of other family members. So it's just like what Bram does. He likes a name and he attaches somebody else's personality to it and comes up with his character, just like he did with Vlad Dracula. He did this with Swales. And he attaches a history that he might get from other fishermen to his Swales character. And he talks about Swales fishing in Greenland at the same time when the Battle of Waterloo was fought in 1815. So he's a very old man with lots of sage, interesting advice. Mm-hmm. And what is also cool is that Swales has a very typical Yorkshire dialect, which makes it hard to read, particularly if you're not used to a Whitby dialect. And it's also Bram Stoker trying to make his story very authentic. He needed to make sure that the actors and the actresses at the Lyceum Theatre use their proper dialect, the same thing in the book.
Then again, this is the behind the scenes. This is amazing. Yeah, the care, to have this kind of details, that is what it gives the reality. Okay. Tenemos otra vez un detalle muy interesante, porque si bien Bram Stoker nunca conoció a un Swales, pero hay una referencia de un Swales en una de las tumbas de Whitby. Entonces, lo que hace Bram, como lo hizo con el Conde Drácula, es, pues literal, vio el nombre, le gustó, se lo queda y se lo apropia a otro personaje. Seguramente en uno de los encuentros que tuvo, conoció a algún marino, ¿no? Y todas esas historias ayudan a crear al señor Swales y le pone finalmente este nombre. Entonces, vemos otra vez esta remediación del mismo Bram metiéndose en el relato y cómo sus historias de investigación se ven ahí reflejadas. Okay.
So I'm going to finish this chapter today with a short reading, and you can translate, and I'll break it up into pieces. Okay. And he's talking about the steps in Whitby, going from the level of the village all the way up to the church, the graveyard, and the abbey. He says, they lead from the town to the church. There are hundreds of them. I don't know how many.
Aquí entramos a la descripción del pueblo, particularmente de la gran escalera que viene desde abajo, ¿no? hasta la abadía, y aquí Mina empieza a hablar de que hay cientos de escalones, no sabe cuántos, pero hay cientos.
And they wind up in a delicate curve.
Y va subiendo en curvas delicadas.
The slope is so gentle that a horse could easily walk up and down them.
La inclinación es muy suave y por lo tanto hasta los caballos pueden subirla.
I think they must originally have had something to do with the abbey.
Seguramente dice que algo tenía que ver, era tan suave que seguramente tenía que ver originalmente con la abadía.
Well, I can now tell you that Bram obviously did his homework, because this was a way to get the supplies from the ships to the village, and they called it the donkey trail, gently up, all the way up high to the abbey where all these monks, hundreds of them, used to live. And they had to go up this trail. Right next to it, later on, was built the steps that he referred to. And there was, in fact, 199 of these steps. And one of the really cool things about the steps is that about every 50 steps, there is a landing with a bench. And the bench has a skull and crossbone. And no, not many people understand why, until I asked the historian at the museum, and he said, oh, that's where people used to stop and rest when they were carrying the coffins up the 199 steps. go to the graveyard, they'd put the coffin on the bench, take a little rest before they'd continue on. So Bram is describing a very famous landmark of the Donkey Trail, the 199 steps to go up, and that's what later on in the story, that's where Dracula, as the big black dog, runs up to go from the wreck of the Demeter up to the graveyard.
Otra vez vemos que Bram hace la tarea, ¿no? Y no nada más dice cosas por decirlo, sino que todo está muy bien fundamentado. Aquí estamos hablando de lo que le llaman el Donkey Trail, que es el camino de los burros, ¿no? Porque en la realidad, cuando llegaban los barcos y demás, bueno, pues por ahí se subían de manera los féretros. Entonces, dice Dacre que hay una descripción, every 15 steps or 50?
50.
50, cada 50 escalones hay un descanso con una banca que además tiene un esqueleto con los huesos, y que cuando, bueno, es una referencia pues bastante peculiar, y Dacre preguntó ahí por qué todas las bancas tenían eso, y bueno, resulta ser que eran descansos para dejar los féretros que iban cargando hacia el cementerio, ¿no? Entonces ahí los dejaban para tomar un descanso, un poco de alivio, y ya después continuaban. Después eso Bram lo utiliza cuando encalla el barco, el Demeter, que sale el lobo negro y que sale corriendo precisamente hacia el cementerio, ¿no? Ahí viene sumamente bien descrito. Wow, amazing.
So this is the end of the readings, and I have an idea to share with you, Enrique, and our viewers. You and I've created so many interesting products inspired by these different places of the novel. Mm-hmm. And I think what we should do next is create one with things from Whitby.
Definitely.
I mean, the abbey, the church, the graveyard, all these cool things. Now, we have already created one, and this just came in the mail to me, my mouse pad of the Jonathan Harker's journey, of the original map, of the crucifix, some of the tickets, the journal. This is something I'm very, very happy about, but I think we should do something like this with some of the famous scenes from Whitby, don't you think?
With Mina perspective.
Yeah.
With all her items, we are going to have fun with that.
And the other thing that just came for me also was the vintage book covers that you put together in your amazing design. And this is a nice tie, obviously, for a man or a woman if they like to wear ties. Yeah. It's a lot of these old vintage Dracula covers, and they're all at the Dracula store. I highly recommend you guys go check out the Dracula store. Yeah. Got some very neat products there. And that's really all I have to say today. Any closing thoughts that you have, recollections of this?
Very fancy tie over there. Very fancy tie. I don't wear tie, but I definitely wear one like that. So
maybe next week I'm wear it.
Definitely. Let me translate and go continue reading. Bueno, pues precisamente justo ahorita acaba de salir una idea aquí que estamos platicando ahora, así como llegaron, Dacre nos estaba enseñando los nuevos diseños que le llegaron de la tienda de Drácula, donde ven, bueno, los pasajes de Jonathan ahí vistos, y ahorita acaba de salir una idea, bueno, que ahora nos debemos hacer mismos diseños, pero con cosas de Whitby. Entonces seguramente desde el punto de vista de Mina, ahí estaremos contando historias a través de productos de diseño que ustedes ya pueden encontrar en la tienda de Drácula. O sea que pasen y chequen todo lo que hay, porque inclusive hasta esta bonita corbata de las portadas antiguas, bueno, la verdad es que se ve sensacional. Dacre, it was such a nice conversation, such insights from a single vacation of Bram, and it's very important for the novel. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye. See you guys next week.
Thank you. Bueno, pues hasta la próxima. Continuemos leyendo Drácula y bueno, cómo vamos viendo cómo Bram se va metiendo en este relato. Hasta la próxima. Muchas gracias. Thank you.